Alright, so with the new year upon us, and since I am generally a Nintendo YouTuber, I figured, hey, why not make a wishlist video for Nintendo's 2026? Essentially what I want to see from the big end going into 2026. So yeah, I mean, I'm very bad at intros, so there's not much else to say, so let's just get right into it. Alright, so my first wish here relates to the online events in Kirby Air Riders, and they did technically start this year, but they will be running up until a year after Kirby Air Riders release. So this technically still counts. And since we do know now these events are pretty comfortable with including pretty substantial unlockables, like for example the latest one, which they very sadly canceled, included a Santa hat as its major unlockable. This makes me wonder, what will they do as the major unlockable for the last event of this game? So since I assume they'll probably ramp up the significance of these unlockables with each succeeding event, I think the perfect way to cap off these events is by making the last unlockable of the last event a new playable character. Now, I don't know if by doing this it'll kind of cross into the territory of DLC, which Sakurai's been very adamant he won't do for this game, but it's actually kind of surprising me how much holidays relating stuff they're adding to this game. It's not like a new character is as significant as like a new course or a new map for City Trial or anything. So at the very least, it's not completely out of the question, and my candidate, if they do decide to add a new playable character as the last unlockable of the last event, is Elflin. He's the dude or agonist of the best-selling Kirby game of all time, and it's kind of surprising to me he isn't already in the game as a playable character. Plus, it's not like this game just pretends Elflin doesn't exist at all. There's one, maybe a couple more decals of him, and even regarding broader Forgotten Land representation, some of the characters you encounter during Road Trip are from Forgotten Land. And no, he's not too small when they somehow made Scarfy work. And of course, there's other potential candidates here too, like Adeline and Ribbon and the Mage Sisters, and although those are pretty great picks that I wish were in the game already, I think especially in this context, they wouldn't hit as hard as Elflin. So yeah, all of that to say, I hope Elflin gets into this game one way or another, and I think this is his best opportunity to do so. Alright, so I forgot to include this in my list before recording this video, but now it seems pretty obvious, and that is DLC for Mario Kart World. And of course, they did that free update that changed some of the intermission tracks and tweaked the menu a little bit or whatever, but I'm talking about full-on DLC that adds new courses, cups, all that jazz. Because again, as I've said in a previous video, the fact that this game is $80 but it still has less courses than other Mario Kart games is pretty lackluster. And just some new content overall would be very appreciated, especially as we compare this game to Kirby Air Riders. And I don't like constantly comparing this game to Air Riders, but I mean, come on, the differences are pretty hard to ignore. And even some new characters, but I don't think this game needs that as much. But if we assume this hypothetical DLC was somehow tied to Donkey Kong Bonanza, and if all the characters were Donkey Kong themed, that'd be pretty cool. So yeah, Mario Kart World DLC, would love to see it happen next year. Alright, so my next wish probably shouldn't even be a wish at all, but I just want to hear a bunch of covers of songs from Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 in this film. And I say this because the first film famously over-relied on licensed music despite the Mario series having just a bunch of bangers. So I want them to stray farther from that and more towards including songs from the Galaxy games. And like the soundtrack from the first two Galaxy games are already really cinematic as it is, so just do covers of those songs. You don't even have to really change anything, just add some more pizzazz to them, make them feel more ethereal, I guess, and boom, you have a goated soundtrack already. So this is probably my most lukewarm wish in this entire video, like, oh, I hope they include Mario songs in this Mario movie, but it feels weirdly needed to be said. Alright, so I wrote this next wish on my phone as just some sort of new Kirby game releasing in 2026, so I wanted to narrow it down a little bit. So I want the Kirby Planet Robobot port that's been rumored for just about a year now to finally come true next year. And I say this because 2026 will mark 10 years since Kirby Planet Robobot released, and what better time to finally port this one over than next year. And I still have a little bit of faith in this one still existing because Nate the Hate was the one to leak this, and he has an excellent track record of Nintendo leaks this year. And although he first did say that Planet Robobot would be ported over in 2025, he has since said that this one has likely spilled over to 2026. And like, yeah, I'd obviously prefer for this one to be a double pack with triple deluxe included, but since this is my second favorite Kirby game of all time, and I would just love to see this one finally escape the 3DS prison, I'm fine with either outcome. So yeah, a port of Planet Robobot to either the Switch 1 or Switch 2 to celebrate its 10-year anniversary would be really hype, but just in general, any Kirby release in 2026 would be fine by me. Alright, so obligatory 3D Mario wish. Like, yeah, of course, everyone wants a new 3D Mario as soon as possible, so this probably isn't even worth putting in this video. Mario. So pretty much the only major reason why I'm even putting this one in this video is because since Generation 10 of Pokemon is all but officially announced to be coming out at least like late next year, if that's paired with a new 3D Mario for a holiday 2026 of Switch 2, that would just be absolutely generational. Like those two alone would push at least 20 million Switch 2 units, and I'm not even joking. And I also say this because out of Nintendo's top 5 best-selling franchises as of recent, or these guys, I find a new mainline Mario game to be the most likely to release next year. It's most likely too soon for another big mainline Zelda. Splatoon Raiders releasing presumably next year makes me think another mainline one releasing soon is fairly unlikely. The Switch 2 edition of Animal Crossing New Horizons makes me think that another mainline Animal Crossing probably isn't coming for another couple years. And with Smash Brothers, I mean, come on, Sakurai just got done with Air Riders. He won't be ready to release another full-fledged new Smash Brothers by late next year. And with 3D Mario, obviously the biggest elephant in the room is Donkey Kong Bonanza, but I don't think that game is a complete deal breaker for Mario to release next year. Although the Odyssey team did work on Bonanza, those two games don't share the same directors, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was mostly the younger devs of Odyssey that worked on Bonanza. So that leaves the question, what are the older devs and director of Odyssey currently doing? And I believe working on the next 3D Mario is a very possible answer. Plus, a new big 3D mainline Mario game releasing next year would be a perfect way to capitalize on the marketing hype for the Mario Galaxy movie. And Nintendo did the same thing for the first Mario movie by releasing a new mainline Mario game that same year, Mario Wonder. So will the next big 3D Mario come out next year? The odds favor no, but it's not completely out of the question. And again, Gen 10 of Pokemon and the next big 3D Mario would be an absolutely generational lineup for Nintendo's holiday 2026. Assuming, again, those both do release around that time. So this one's a bit of an odd one, but I want to see a new non-Smash Nintendo crossover game to release. Since the next Smash won't release for at least the next couple of years due to Air Riders, which I'm perfectly fine with, by the way, I love Air Riders, I think a new game that channels the same essence as Smash Brothers but executes it through a different genre would be a perfect way to fill in the time until then. Like maybe a smaller scale RPG, or even a Warriors or Rivals game would go insanely hard, or even a sports title that isn't kart racing. Like I wouldn't prefer that as much as the other genres I just listed, but that would still be really cool. And another major complaint people had with Ultimate is the lack of character interactions, and if this game is like a RPG or something, then that would be really cool, just seeing these characters interact more than in Ultimate. Like we could see the return of Subspace Emissary levels of character interaction, and that would just be absolutely peak. So this one's a bit more peculiar compared to my other wishes, but who knows, Nintendo loves to pull weird fast ones on us, so this one is very well possible. Alright, so we've seen rumors and patents of a top screen for the Switch 2 for like about a year now, and if something like that does release next year, I feel like the thing that makes the most sense to pair it alongside with is DS NSO. So I don't really have much to say about this besides the fact that if they do release a top screen for the Switch 2 next year, then playing DS games on it would be really cool. And even looking past all of that, it's pretty much the natural next step for Nintendo Switch Online. I mean, they already have GameCube and Game Boy Advance covered, so I really don't see this happening next year like at all. Just be really cool to see it happen regardless. Alright, so my next wish relates to an already announced Nintendo game, and that is the Mario Wonder Switch 2 edition. I pretty much just wanted to have just as much substantial single player content as multiplayer, because we do know that the new Bellabelle Park location, or whatever it's called, will be mostly dedicated to new mini games that are meant to be played multiplayer. And while that is cool, when I picture a Switch 2 edition of Mario Wonder, I picture like new levels and new worlds, and not a mini game haven. But with the tease of the return of Koopalings and what I assume to be like smaller Captain Toad levels or something, it gives me hope that there will be at least some sort of new single player content here. I just don't want it to be completely drowned out by the new multiplayer content. And while we're on the topic of Switch 2 editions, I want these things to be mostly obsolete by the end of next year. The fact that these are pretty much just like glorified DLC, but Nintendo still sees these as major releases, not only on the Switch 2, but in their respective series, kind of just irks me. And I don't want these to replace major entries in these respective series. Not only that, but so far the majority of these don't add anything that significantly new besides graphical upgrades, or just aren't good. So yeah, at this point, I honestly just prefer free graphical upgrades to Switch 1 games. Alright, so my next two wishes relate to the Switch 2 console itself, and first of all, I want to see more color variations of the Switch 2 come out next year. Like, it's pretty weird already the Switch 2 only released with one SKU, when the Switch 1 at least released with two, monochrome and neon red and blue. Like, at least release differently colored Switch 2 Joy-Cons. Like, if you're gonna charge $100 for these things, at least come out with different colors for them. Like, do you know how hard purple Switch Switch 2 Joy-Cons would go? You don't have to, because just look at this. Isn't that just peak? And hell, even just release differently colored Switch 2 systems just in general. I mean, they weren't opposed to doing it with the Switch 1. Enough with this sleek black bull crap. Add more color to this console. Like, what happened to the days of Nintendo caring about their console having different color variations? Like what happened? Alright, next up is something I've been begging for a while, and that is themes. For the love of God, add themes to the Switch 2, Nintendo. Like, the Switch 2 already has more bits and pieces of personality than the Switch 1. Like, my favorite part is the little noise it makes when it turns on. So just go the full way with that increased personality, rip the band-aid off, and finally release themes. Like, I can just not stress enough how perfect of a use themes would be for the platinum points. Like, you already have the system in place. It'd be so easy to incorporate. Like, here's something you could do, Nintendo. Some of the more basic new themes could be given to users for free via an update, but some of the more complex ones, or ones based off different new games, could be purchased on the Nintendo Online application with platinum points. Boom, there you go. Give me $1 billion. Like, the UI is one of the most disappointing aspects of the Switch 2 for me, and new themes would be like one of the biggest fixes for it. Like, it's been almost a decade, Nintendo. Basic white and black just don't make sense anymore. Like, in my mind, they would function almost exactly like the icons, where they're rolled out on a like weekly or monthly basis, and they're mostly based off new and upcoming games. And they wouldn't all be based off new and upcoming games, but you get the idea. This is just such an easy thing for Nintendo to do. Alright, finally, we made it to the last of my wishes. Nintendo, mark down the prices on some of these new amiibos, man. Like, the new Mario Galaxy amiibo being sold for $40 each is crazy as it is, but the Kirby Air Riders amiibo being released for $50 each is just ludicrous. Like, in what world are these pieces of plastic worth $50, man? Like, even shaving $10, maybe $15 off of these things would do wonders, and we know Nintendo is capable of shaving the prices off of some of their amiibo, because I believe some of the new Zelda and Street Fighter amiibo are being sold for like less than $10 at GameStop. So Nintendo, throw a bone to your consumers for once and make these goddamn things less expensive, please. So yeah, that about does it. Do I expect all of these to come true? Absolutely not. Would I be very happy if even some of these came true? Absolutely yes. And yeah, so thanks for watching, everyone, and bye-bye.